Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Joe Biden gives a befuddled and underwhelming State of the Union address. Hey guys, my name is Jason Wesley, and this is not a podcast. Well, before the State of the Union began, a local Pittsburgh news station timed out a graphic perfectly, or imperfectly.
And no arrests have been made.
A 71-year-old man is accused of inappropriately touching a 12-year-old girl at the Walmart in West Mifflin Sunday afternoon.
Now, remember a couple weeks ago, Nancy Pelosi said that there would only be a limited number of people invited to the State of the Union? This was Bloomberg, February 10th. Biden's State of the Union speech to have limited attendance. Well, in a complete reversal, Congress drops mask mandate ahead of Biden's State of the Union address. I guess they're getting on board with all the other Democrats that have been dropping the mask mandates within the past couple weeks, as soon as the polling came out.
The CDC says we are not there yet. You say you're following the science. So what do you know that the CDC director does not?
The CDC, which we have been adherent to from the get-go, and we think they're doing a terrific job, they've just got a much more complex reality. The science and the data and the facts on the ground in New Jersey have allowed us to take this step.
Well, the CDC still says you're at a high transmission level.
Given the declining cases, given declining hospitalizations, that is why we feel comfortable to lift this in effect tomorrow.
On Monday, February 28th, we will lift the indoor mask requirement for the state of Illinois.
When you put the mask mandate in place, hospitalizations were at 1,700. We're not at 1,700.
No, we're not.
So why pick February 28th?
Because we're seeing a trajectory of those hospitalizations. We've come from 7,300, more than that, down to under 2,500 just in the last 4 weeks.
Is it still higher now than it was at the peak before?
It's still above where we like it to be, which is what is the term we're using? Substantial.
Also, just before the State of the Union, Nancy Pelosi was asked if she would be wearing a mask.
About that, because the CDC mask guidance was changed last week today. DC officially lifted its indoor mask guidance. Are you going to be wearing a mask tonight?
No, I'm not going to be wearing a mask tonight. If I had little children or if I were around little grandchildren, I would, because some of them would not be vaccinated. Or if I were around a person or were a person with some kind of a condition that would make me susceptible to it. So I think people have to use their judgment about it. But I do think that if people make their own judgment, I make my own judgment that I won't be wearing a mask tonight.
Nancy, you're 81. I'd say that's a risk factor. But the real question is whether she's going to be wearing a mask during a nuclear explosion. You think I'm joking. According to FEMA, during a nuclear explosion, continue to practice social distancing by wearing a mask and by keeping a distance of at least 6 feet between yourself and people who are not a part of your household. I'm not sure if they're really following the science, because Biden's first State of the Union in April 2021, there were 54,000 new cases. This year, there were over 100,000. Last year, there were 934 new deaths. This year, there's 1,972 new deaths. Okay, so on to the actual State of the Union address. Personally, I think that the Democrats sent out an email to everybody for them to just keep clapping for no reason. I'm not really sure what everyone expected, because the State of the Union was underwhelming, to say the least. Just 41% of viewers reacted very positively to Biden's State of the Union, the lowest in 15 years since George W. Bush addressed Congress in 2007, CNN poll shows. Now, we've all visited a church, and we didn't know when we were supposed to stand up or sit down. Well, the same thing happened to Chuck Schumer.
The American Rescue Plan helped working people and left no one behind.
And what is Nancy Pelosi doing here?
Many of you have been there. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 40 times.
It's like she's a fly when it lands on food or poop. Now, he said inflation could be blamed on exploitation by corporations.
I'm a capitalist, but capitalism without competition is not capitalism. Capitalism without competition is exploitation. It drives up profits.
So what you're saying is that all of these corporations have been altruistic all of these years, and then all of a sudden, as soon as Biden enters office, they get really greedy. Or alternatively, Biden was elected, he implemented his policies, and now we have inflation. But thank goodness for the oil reserve that Jen Psaki references here to help with gas prices.
Well, I would say, Dana, the president shares the concern about any impact on gas prices, on energy prices for the American people. And that's why a range of options remain on the table. He already recently tapped into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve just last fall, which had an impact. But I would say the Keystone Pipeline.
But the impact, Jen, that was a blip. It was a 10-cent thing, but it doesn't last.
And at one point, Biden randomly starts talking about the wall and vaccines like he's a computer just shutting down. I was expecting that little beach ball to start circling above his head.
We won't stop. Because you can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases.
And at one point, instead of saying the Ukrainian people, he says the Iranian people, or maybe Uranian. I don't know.
Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom.
And then he starts talking about the Second Amendment and how deer don't have vests.
Ban assault weapons with high-capacity magazines hold up to 100 rounds. You think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests?
He says that none of these laws infringe upon the Second Amendment.
These laws don't infringe on the Second Amendment. They save lives.
Now let's look at the definition of infringe. Act as to limit or undermine. I would say that when you attempt to limit or undermine someone's ability to defend themselves with a firearm, it would be considered infringement. I remember Biden saying that cops should aim for the legs.
So instead of anybody coming at you, the first thing you do is shoot to kill, you shoot them in the leg. The idea that instead of standing there and teaching a cop who's an unarmed person coming at him with a knife or something to shoot him in the leg instead of in the heart is a very different thing. There's a lot of different things that can change.
Here's some other ignorant things Biden said about guns.
We have to provide within police departments psychologists and social workers to go out with the cops on those calls, some of those 911 calls. There's no rationale to own a military-style weapon, an AR-15, that if you're a hunter and you need an AR-15, you shouldn't be out there hunting. If you need 100 rounds in your clip, then you're a danger to yourself if you're out there hunting. I'm not joking. Guess what? The fact is, if you're going to take on the government, you need an F-15 with Hellfire missiles. There's no way an AK-47 is going to take care of you. We never said you could own any weapon at all from the beginning. You can't own a machine gun. You can't own a bazooka. You can't own an M1 tank, no matter how much money you have. You can limit the kind of weapons that are able to be owned. I now have over 58% of the NRA members acknowledging you can't own an assault weapon. There's no need for it. You can't have a magazine that has more than 10 rounds in it.
Are you able? I said, are you able to own one? That's right. AR-15's illegal. How is that a machine gun? No, it's not. Yeah, you need 100 rounds. You need 100 rounds. In America, with handguns that are what you call assault rifles. Why are you advocating for assault rifles when people are doing by handguns?
If you want to protect yourself, get a double-barrel shotgun. Have the shells, a 12-gauge shotgun, and I promise you, as I told my wife, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here or walk out, put that double-barrel shotgun and fire 2 blasts outside the house. I promise you, who's ever coming in is not going to. You don't need an AR-15. It's harder to aim, it's harder to use, and in fact, you don't need 30 rounds to protect yourself. Buy a shotgun. Buy a shotgun.
Samantha Phillips asks, if the ban on drugs did not work with taking them off the street, how do you think a ban on guns is going to be different?
The analogy to if there was a ban on drugs, how can there be a ban on, how would any regulation of the type of weapon available out there, why would that make sense? Are you suggesting we just legalize all drugs? Is that what you're suggesting? Let's talk about everybody being able to, no matter what your age, go out and be able to purchase cocaine. What do you think about that idea?
I wonder if he would tell the Ukrainians that all they need are shotguns to defend themselves against the Russian invasion.
We are in a queue where people are waiting to get their weapons to fight the Russian invaders. There is no reason to believe that they're going to stop anytime soon, and their objective clearly, at least to me, seems to be the occupation of my entire country.
I remember Biden's senior advisor saying that the spike in crime isn't due to defunding the police, but guns and the NRA.
What do you think is the root of the cause of this spike in violence? I mean, we read through some of these cities, don't know. From the administration's perspective, why is this happening?
Well, look, A bunch of reasons, I believe, but one is the proliferation of guns on the streets of America. The fact that we have let the NRA govern this country for far too long, and the president is willing to take them on directly.
And then Biden said the right to vote is under assault.
The most fundamental right in America is the right to vote and have it counted. And look, it's under assault. In state after state, new laws have been passed. Not only to suppress the vote, we've been there before, but to subvert the entire election. We can't let this happen.
Well, that's not true at all. Every legal U.S. citizen that is currently alive should have the right to vote. They shouldn't be forced to take part in that right either, just as every legal U.S. citizen that is currently alive should have the right to bear arms, even though not everyone chooses to exercise this right. Now, according to evidence of ballot harvesters in Georgia, election fraud is an issue.
And you're going to see a ballot harvester. You may have already seen this. We have put this out. But here he is coming up to the screen. He's taking a picture of, after he's fanned out all the ballots, picture so he can get paid, which according to the True the Vote was $10 a ballot is what the whistleblower said they were getting paid. Here's another one. Here's a ballot harvester counting his ballots and dropping them in.
And yes, ballot harvesting is illegal in the state of Georgia. Now, you would think that Biden would have paid tribute to the 13 servicemen and women that were killed in Afghanistan, or accepting some level of responsibility considering that it happened less than 6 months ago. But no, he didn't. I remember this was supposed to be one of his landmark accomplishments. Well, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert reminded him about the 13 lost.
Colorado's Lauren Boebert broke protocol just as the president was talking about Army veterans dying from cancer.
A cancer that would put them in a flag-draped coffin.
She looked around and shouted out.
13. You got an enormous amount of heat. You were smeared in the media for breach of decorum.
When Joe Biden started talking about flag-draped coffins, I got fired up. My mind went straight to the 13 soldiers that died in Afghanistan. The mother of one of those heroes lives in my district. She told me Joe Biden killed her son. So you're darn right I spoke up. And if I could redo last night, I would absolutely do it again.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And to finish up, Biden starts yelling like he's known for doing.
I've spoken to over 140 heads of state since I've become president. You lost your child. You lost your child. It's gone. Every time we're silent, every time. Fewer democracies in the world today than we did 15 years ago. Fewer. Not more, fewer.
And I don't know if that's better or the random whispering that he does.
Everybody benefits. Grows the economy. Fox News. But don't let up now. Don't tell me what the White House is ranked. But pay your fair share. I got them $1.9 trillion in relief so far. Just remind them, I wrote the bill on the environment. Employers can't find workers. I said, yeah, pay them more.
But at the end of the State of the Union, he says, go get him.
This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time. And we will, as one people, one America, the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Go get him.
Does anybody know who he's talking about? But I guess him staying on script for the State of the Union, it's better than Kamala going off script for one of her latest speeches.
When folks vote, they order what they want, and in this case, they got what they asked for. I went off script a little bit.
They sure did.
I'm hearing it. I'm listening to people be like, man, where's Trump? Yeah. Get this motherfucker out of here. They feel like they would rather get it raw. Yeah. Like, you know what? At least we know where that motherfucker's good. These motherfuckers is gassing us up, lying to us, promising us shit and didn't deliver. Like, I cannot wait to see, and I'm already watching it. I'm watching Democrats start the campaign. They're already like, Hillary, you gotta go out there and vote. Like, democracy depends on it. I'm like, when y'all gonna start governing like democracy depends on it?
Come on, man. Get a life.
Will you be mine?